You are listening to a special edition of the Colts Report with Will Rutherford. Will's reaction to the Colts' 48-27 loss to the 49ers on Monday Night Football. And it's only on the Central Indiana Sports Report. I said it right that time. Welcome back, Colts fans, to the Central Indiana Sports Report for a special edition of the Colts Report with Will Rutherford. His reaction to the Colts' loss to the 49ers. There's 41 seconds to go. It's 48-27. The 49ers are kneeling out the game, and the game is over. 48-27 is the final. The Colts season mathematically isn't over, but is over. Will, your immediate reaction?
Yeah, he just didn't play good enough defensively. 27 points should be enough for your team to win a game. Most Sundays or Mondays, and they just weren't good enough. The 49ers had every answer on third down. They had every answer on early downs. They ran the ball well. They played a great play-action game. The receivers caught the ball, and the Colts just couldn't have covered their own shadows, to be quite honest with you. There was just a lot of missed coverages, a lot of blown coverages, and unfortunately, that's how it works in this league. If you're not on your best, you're going to get exposed.
All true, to be fair. They gave up 48 points, but they also turnover gave the 49ers good field position. A punt return gave them good field position. It wasn't all the defense. It was a pretty bad performance all the way around. Of course, you also had a quarterback who couldn't complete a pass over 15 yards, which allowed the defense to key on Jonathan Taylor, and it was just a mess from top to bottom. I know they scored 27 points, but that was fool's gold.
We've talked a lot about Rivers' limitations, and they missed a touchdown on Tyler Warren on third down that Tyler Warren, the ball just doesn't get to him. He's wide open. He walks into the end zone if it's a well-placed ball, and Rivers gets happy feet and just can't deliver a strike to him. And it's like that's the type of plays early in games that kind of make it more difficult to come back. That's the difference between 7 and a field goal. I thought Groupie was good. He came in and took care of his job. But the Colts offensively, I agree. I think there were just some times where you just wish that the quarterback could have really stood in there and delivered a strong ball. I thought that Rivers as a whole played well. He's not the reason they lost. It would have been nice for Tyler Warren to not turn his head so early and that last route and kind of give it away on what they're doing. At the end of the day, you kind of hope your quarterback maybe doesn't throw that ball knowing that you've got a linebacker with his feet planted on the ground moving upfield to make a play on it. But everything that could have gone wrong there at the end went wrong, and the Colts just didn't play well enough to win today as a team.
On 15 yards and end passes, Rivers was nearly perfect. Placed the ball perfectly nearly every time, but nothing past that was. Michael Pittman was a complete non-factor for the second week in a row.
Tyler Warren's a non-factor, and I think Tyler Warren's kind of found that rookie lull that he's in right now, or the long season. I just don't think that he's crisp. And there are a couple balls where it's like, I understand the hospital balls and getting put in bad spots, but you're going to get blown up either way. You'd like to see him come down with football. Disappointing for Jonathan Taylor because they are able to key in. He had such a good season going, and that's kind of just gone down the drain now. It's all for naught.
Even tonight, man, he made a lot of really good runs where he made 2 or 3 guys miss, but there was just no room to run at all.
It's just disappointing. They're so beat up. Every team is. The 49ers are banged up. They're without 3 of their top defensive players as well. So there's no excuse. The Colts just didn't play well enough, and they've been exposed. They've played good teams. They haven't played very well the last 2 months. They have nobody to really blame but themselves. They could go in there and take care of business. They could have won in Seattle, which would have alleviated a lot of stress. Even, these last 3 weeks, it doesn't put as much pressure on games like this, but you're at home on Monday Night Football. You go and you take the ball, you score the first possession, you have a ton of momentum, and then the defense just comes up and, buries their head in the sand, and can't make a play.
Made one play all night, and then the 49ers came back with a defensive player of their own next play.
Anthony Gould's been out, and that's why Amir Abdullah's taken kickoffs, and it's just like little things like that just add on top of each other. They're professionals. It's not like Amir Abdullah tried to fumble. It just would have been nice to maybe protect the ball with 2 hands, anticipating contact. Just really difficult. Your offense goes and puts 7 on the board. By the time they step back on the field, it's 14-7. That's disappointing, and they played from behind the entire game. If I were Shane Steichen there in the second quarter, I think I would have gone for it a few times on fourth and short, because you just could tell from the beginning of the game this defense wasn't stopping the 49ers. The 49ers got the ball. They were going to score. The only possession they didn't score on was the one they missed the 64-yard field goal, and then the possession at the end of the game with the interception and then the kneel outs.
Well, I will say this for the Colts defense. They can't stop a running back like Christian McCaffrey with the personnel they have. It's impossible. And then when you throw on top of that, both of their star corners are out. It was pretty predictable, as I said in the preview, that McCaffrey was going to do whatever he wanted. And they actually did a decent job against him.
We talked about some of the limitations. They did a good job. They bottled them up there in the second half. They were really bad in the first half against the run, and the linebackers just can't cover. You want to know why George Kittle and Christian McCaffrey both are going for well over 100 yards? It's because they don't tackle very well, and they don't cover anybody. The corners, the receivers. Brock Purdy had all day to throw. And he was throwing to wide open guys. It was like watching a college offense work, where it's just like every receiver he's throwing to is wide open. And it's the corners, they played horrible too. The whole defense is a totality, just completely underwhelming. Cam Bynum didn't play well. He came up with that pick at the end.
They got a lot of holes to fix on that defense, and let's talk a little bit more about that here in just a minute. I think it's time to just blow this thing up and start over. I will defend Shane Steichen a little bit. I think he's done a really good job all year with this team. It's done way better than I expected it to, even despite this late swoon. But it's time to start over, right?
It's so difficult because I kind of agree with you. I don't think Steichen's necessarily coached horrible, but at the end of the day, this has been the totality of the Steichen regime. They fall apart at the end. They've had multiple times that they've just been underperforming and underwhelming in games and must-win situations. He just doesn't win the big one. And if your coach can't do that, or your team can't do that with him as your coach, then I think it's time that you move on.
The problem is, I think he's a really good coach, and I think he's going to wind up somewhere and have success somewhere.
I think he's a great play caller. I still question some of the decision-making things that he does. I think the use of timeout, sometimes the play calling gets a little strange. But I do think as a whole, I think he's a great offensive coordinator. He's a great schematic coach. I don't know if he's an awesome head coach. I think a lot of times it's difficult for coaches to be successful the first time they get a job. This is obviously his first head coaching job. I think that you'd see a much better Shane Steichen if he's given another opportunity somewhere else, because he's going to learn from his mistakes, going to have evaluated kind of went wrong in Indianapolis. I think the roster has always kind of been a Band-Aid roster. They've never been elite really anywhere other than Jonathan Taylor. In the time that he's been there, they've been good. They have good receivers.
Since losing Leonard, they've really not been a contender.
And I don't really know that they were much of a contender then either, to be honest with you. They were good teams. They weren't great teams. This team hasn't been a legit contender since Peyton Manning was the quarterback, if we're being completely honest. Like a team that actually just was good enough to go win a championship. Even the Andrew Luck years, they just weren't good enough. Like there was always that limitation and weakness that was going to get exposed by a good team in the second round of the playoffs or the AFC championship. And it's like, okay, well, this is the truth. This is what our team is. It's unfortunate that happened during the Patriots kind of second dynasty, but that's how the NFL works. If you're not a champion, you're trying to get there, and the Colts just haven't done a good enough job. I think Chris Ballard is going to get fired because the roster construction, as you can see, look at what the 49ers have done. Think of how many games they've missed from their star players this year, and they still are 11-4. So it's clearly their depth seems to work. So the buck's got to fall somewhere. And I think it's going to be him. And I think Steichen's probably going to be a hostage there as well. But I don't necessarily think it's Shane Steichen's fault that they're in this position.
I agree with you, but I think it's just time to start from scratch once again, and time to bring in Peyton Manning to run this organization.
Shane Steichen was brought in to develop Anthony Richardson and turn him into a franchise quarterback. He failed at that job. He
most
failed at that
certainly
job.
did.
And so it's not to say that we're sitting here and we're Steichen homers and we think he's some awesome head coach. He also failed at what he was supposed to do and didn't deliver that.
Good point.
It's time for it to go. It's time for it to be done. I think Lou Anarumo, the defense has really looked bad for the better part of a month and a half now at this point. So I think it's kind of a situation too with him where he's probably going to go. A coach is going to bring in their own defensive coordinator, but they say they're not mathematically eliminated. You think Jacksonville's not just foaming at the mouth wanting to come play this Colts team right now with the lack of pass coverage? They're on an absolute heater with what they've got, and they torched the Broncos. What do you think they're going to do to the Colts? I get it's an every week type of league, it's an every week type of situation, but right now, the Colts aren't winning these last two games. It's just not happening.
Philip Rivers, it's time to retire, and we hope we never see you again. No offense. It was a admirable job you did, but if you're using Philip Rivers as your quarterback, things are not going well. And I guess we're going to see Riley Leonard the last 2 weeks, I would hope. I'm glad Philip Rivers didn't get hurt. I'm glad he didn't embarrass himself. He didn't embarrass himself, I'll say that.
He looked pretty damn good tonight from 15 ins. I think that he'll play next week because there's still mathematically a chance that they can get in. There is if the Chargers beat that Week 18
Riley
game.
Leonard a chance. Let's see if maybe he has that in him.
They're not going to do that because you saw enough from Philip Rivers to say he didn't play bad tonight. He's not the reason they lost. I thought he was excellent at the line of scrimmage in the first half, getting to the right checks. They looked really efficient that first drive. That second drive, they looked great. Down the stretch, I think
before it becomes an embarrassment, Will.
Well, I kind of expected it before at this point. I think what you see is what you get. They've done a good job of masking his weaknesses. He's gotten the ball out quickly. He's typically found the right guy. I think he's an absolutely cerebral assassin at the quarterback position. He's outsmarting the defensive coordinator. He's played good. I give all the
I expected.
Admiration and respect for what he did for this franchise to strap him back up and play and give the Colts a chance. Right, wrong, or indifferent, whether you thought he was the man in the arena, he did it, and you got to commend to that, respect it.
Absolutely. This does nothing but add to his Hall of Fame case. But it's time for it to be over.
Well, it's if they lose next week, it will be over. He won't start the last week, but he will start next week.
Their percentage chance of making the playoffs is now 4%. Can we just go with Riley Leonard and see what we got?
And I think it could come down to a situation where, Houston and the Chargers play on Saturday. There's a chance that if Houston wins, which I think would them officially eliminate the Colts from playoff contention, that they do play Riley Leonard. If Houston loses and the Colts can play to stay alive, they've made it clear that they think Philip Rivers gives them the best chance to win. I would like to see Anthony Richardson play the last 2 weeks if healthy and give him the opportunity to at least showcase whether he has any role next year on this team as Daniel Jones gets healthy or can potentially go be a backup somewhere.
You make a good point. The Anthony Richardson situation is a fireable offense for Shane Steichen. Let's just start from scratch. Will, thanks so much. That was fun. Everybody, make sure you tune in on Tuesday for Strictly Biased with Will Rutherford, and producer Susie may or may not be talking trash during that podcast.
Well, I think it's probably warranted at this point.
Producer Susie is leading our picks competition. We'll talk more about that on Strictly Biased with Will Rutherford on Tuesday. She's kind of kicking butt. She's definitely kicking my butt. Thanks so much to Will for joining me late on Monday. Thanks so much to producer Susie for producing, even though she went to work today. And thank you so much for listening. Please do us a huge favor. Share this podcast with a Colts fan in your life. Help us spread the word that the Central Indiana Sports Report is talking about what Central Indiana sports fans are talking about every single day. And somebody let Daisy out. Central Indiana Sports Report is a product of ITG Media, and I love Susie. We're coming, Daisy.